Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're continuing our exploration of the next democracy idea.
Right, this concept we've discussed before, not about tearing down current systems, but maybe adding a new layer.
Exactly. Think of it as an overlay, a way you could, continuously vote on issues or even pass your vote to someone you trust on a specific topic, all transparently.
And crucially, it's designed to be non-disruptive. It works alongside existing representative democracy. It's opt-in. And this is actually the second in a whole series we're doing, looking at how this might land in different countries. We've got, 13 hypothetical outlines lined up, each one quite different?
That's right, 13 deep dives. And today we're focusing on a place that's already way ahead digitally. Estonia.
Estonia, the e-Estonia. They're famous for their e-governance, aren't they? Online voting, digital IDs for pretty much everything.
Absolutely. So our mission, if you like, for this deep dive is to really get under the skin of Estonia's digital society and figure out, well, how might a next democracy pilot actually work there? How do people react?
It does seem like fertile ground, doesn't it? But there's a bit of a paradox there.
How so?
Well, traditional civic engagement, things like joining parties or attending town halls, it's okay, but not exceptionally high. But digital participation, that's another story.
You mean like their citizen initiative portal?
Yeah.
Rahvaalgatus?
Exactly. Rahvaalgatus is a brilliant example. It sort of proves the point someone involved made. If citizens have a user-friendly and convenient way to have a say in lawmaking, they will.
And the numbers back that up, don't they? I saw something like by 2023, over 313,000 signatures gathered. That's huge for a small country.
It really is. And the bar isn't ridiculously high either. Nationally, you only need, 1,000 e-signatures to get Parliament to look at an idea?
Wow, only 1,000. And locally.
Even less of a hurdle. Just 1% of the local population signing on can bring an issue to the municipal council. It shows a real commitment to making participation accessible digitally.
And this fits into their broader support for open democracy, like the whole e-Residency thing, too.
Right. Definitely. But we should also acknowledge the potential constraints.
Like the digital divide, even in Estonia.
Yeah, it's small, admittedly. Internet penetration is super high, around 88%. But you still have some maybe older citizens, perhaps in more rural spots, who aren't as connected or comfortable online.
That's always a factor with digital systems, isn't it? Ensuring everyone can participate if they want to.
It is. And the other big one, especially for Estonia, is security.
Yes. They faced major cyberattacks in the past.
They have. So any next democracy system, even a pilot, would need absolutely rigorous security. They'd almost certainly leverage their existing e-ID system, which people already use and trust for banking, health records, you name it.
Maybe blockchain technology, too, for the voting integrity.
Very likely. That trust in the underlying digital ID is just fundamental. It solves that one person, one vote problem online pretty effectively.
Okay, so let's make this more concrete. How could this actually be piloted? Let's imagine a scenario, maybe in Tartu, Estonia's second city.
Right. Picture this. A young candidate, maybe an entrepreneur from the civic tech scene, decides to run for the Tartu City Council, runs as an independent.
Okay, outside the usual parties and their platform.
Pure next democracy. The core promise is, elect me, and every important decision the council faces, I'll put it to a continuous online vote for Tartu citizens. And I'll vote how the citizens tell me to vote.
That's a bold promise. You think people would actually participate in local issues that much?
Given the Estonian context, I think it's plausible, especially with an easy-to-use app that plugs right into their secure digital ID for authentication. People are used to using the ID system.
So authentication is sorted. But what about people who don't have time or expertise on every single issue?
That's where the proxy delegation comes in. The app wouldn't just be yes-no. You could delegate your vote on, say, arts funding to a local artist you respect.
Okay. So you can participate directly or indirectly.
Exactly. And the candidate's strategy would probably involve actively recruiting well-regarded locals, teachers, architects, community leaders to be potential proxies, highlighting their expertise.
That's quite savvy. Building trust in the delegation part?
And during the campaign, they could run mock votes on current local debates. Maybe news cycle lanes or a park renovation.
To show how it works and get some buzz.
Precisely. Show the transparency, get people talking, generate some social media activity. It would likely really appeal to younger voters, people who see this as the logical next step for e-Estonia.
Even if the established parties are a bit skeptical.
Probably. They might see it as undermining party structures, but the appeal to digital natives could be strong.
Okay, that's one scenario. What about at the national level? Could an existing MP try this?
Let's think about that. Scenario 2. An incumbent MP, maybe from the Reform Party, in the national parliament, the Rigi Kogu.
But they have party discipline to worry about, right? Especially in Estonia's proportional system.
Absolutely. So this wouldn't be a completely maverick move. They'd likely need to negotiate some understanding with their party leadership.
Like an agreement to use this system only on certain types of votes.
Exactly. Perhaps on matters of conscience or where the party whip isn't strictly applied. The deal might be, I'll consult an online citizen panel on these issues.
And how would that panel work? Anyone in Estonia could join.
Potentially, yes. They might partner with an NGO, maybe the one behind Rahvaalgatus, to build a platform. Any Estonian citizen could register as a virtual constituent since Estonia is effectively one national district for some purposes.
Okay, so before a big vote allowed by the party.
The MP would go on the platform, explain the issue, maybe state their initial leaning. Then they'd open, say, a 48-hour window for registered virtual constituents to vote.
Yeah.
Yes, no, abstain, or delegate.
And the key promise.
To publish the results transparently and generally, to vote in Parliament according to the majority view on their platform.
Let's take an example. A digital services tax law is up for debate.
Okay. The MP explains it, opens the vote. Let's say 60% of the participants on the platform vote yes.
So the MP votes yes in the Rigi Kogu.
Yes. And they'd issue a statement saying something like, having consulted my virtual constituents, who voted 60% in favor, I have voted yes on this bill.
That would definitely get media attention, wouldn't it? An evolution of e-voting.
For sure. You'd likely get some pushback from colleagues worried about unpredictability, losing control. But Estonia does have this innovative political streak. Remember the president crowdsourcing speeches?
Oh, yeah. So maybe not too much resistance.
It seems plausible it could get off the ground, perhaps with some initial caution from the party establishment.
Okay, so we have these two potential pilots. How do we think the Estonian public overall would react?
Well, I suspect you'd see a bit of a split, probably along generational lines, maybe partisan lines too. Younger, tech-comfortable Estonians. Likely quite enthusiastic.
They'd see it as natural progression.
Pretty much. We bank online, vote online, why not have more say online between elections? The novelty factor alone could drive high initial signups, people just wanting to check it out.
And the media. You mentioned attention. Likely positive at first.
Yeah, I'd expect headlines like, Estonia tests always-on democracy or something similar, playing up the digital leadership angle. It fits their national narrative.
But then the scrutiny would kick in.
Oh, absolutely. Journalists would start digging into participation rates. Did they drop off after the first few weeks? Are there security concerns? Is the proxy system being, gamed by organized groups?
Like lobby groups or extremists trying to concentrate influence.
Exactly. Those kinds of questions would surface. And behind the scenes, you might get quiet resistance from established political figures worried about, losing their traditional gatekeeping role.
What about organized interests, like unions or business groups? How would they play it?
That's a fascinating angle. Groups like, say, the Chamber of Commerce or teachers' unions might see this MP's platform or the Tartu councillors as a new lobbying channel.
Instead of just meeting officials, they mobilize their members to vote on the platform.
Precisely. There's a vote on education funding coming up on MPX's platform. Everyone log in and vote yes. It could arguably make lobbying more democratic, more visible.
But it could also mean well-organized groups have an outsized voice compared to the silent majority.
That's the risk. Similar to how money influences campaigns now, but maybe more immediate and issue-specific.
And the proxy system could create new influencers.
Definitely. You might see certain tech bloggers or respected academics becoming really influential proxies on specific topics, with thousands delegating votes to them, new kinds of public figures.
But fundamentally, you think Estonians would give the concept a fair hearing?
I think so. Because they generally trust their digital systems. The reaction wouldn't be, oh, this is insecure nonsense. It would be more like, okay, the tech can probably work, but will enough people use it seriously to make it legitimate? Execution and participation are key.
Right. So assuming these pilots get some traction, what effects might we see? Short term first.
Okay, short term. If that Tartu pilot works, you could see real local impact. Maybe the community center expansion gets approved because the online vote showed strong support and the councillor followed through.
That would feel quite direct for people.
Exactly. could boost local enthusiasm, maybe get younger people more involved who felt disconnected before. You might also see local groups popping up specifically to organize participation on the platform for certain causes.
And for the national MP's pilot.
Short term, it could really sharpen public debate on the specific laws being voted on. Every time the MP opens a vote, it prompts discussion, people looking into the issue to decide how to vote or who to delegate to.
More informed debate, potentially?
Potentially. And the MP gets interesting data, too. Does the opinion on their platform mirror national polls? Or is there a difference? That's useful feedback.
Okay, moving out a bit.
Yeah?
Medium term, say 5 years down the line.
If things go well in Tartu, you could see policies starting to genuinely reflect the preferences shown on the platform more consistently. That could start to rebuild some trust in local government, which, let's be honest, isn't always sky high anywhere.
Could the council even start formally using the platform's data?
Possibly. Maybe not as binding votes initially, but as a formal input channel. And nationally, if the first MP's experiment is seen as a success,
Others might copy it.
you could see a few other forward-thinking MPs launching similar platforms, maybe even forming a sort of informal Next Democracy Caucus or Digital Deputies Group, pushing for wider adoption or even a formal parliamentary platform.
But it wouldn't all be smooth sailing, presumably.
Oh, no. Participation might drop off after the novelty wears off. That's a real challenge. They'd need to adapt. Maybe adding features like structured online debates, virtual town halls linked to the platform ways to keep people engaged beyond just clicking yes or no. The platform data, who's voting, when, on what would be crucial for figuring out how to improve it.
And the ultimate goal.
Well, optimistically, maybe in 5 years, you'd see a measurable uptick in the percentage of Estonians saying, yeah, I feel like the government actually listens to people like me. That would be a significant shift.
So thinking even longer term, what about wider adoption? Within Estonia and maybe elsewhere?
Inside Estonia, given their digital DNA, if these pilots are successful, scaling up seems pretty likely. You could see existing tools like Rahvaalgatus evolving, becoming more interactive, maybe incorporating continuous voting features.
Could it even lead to, say, binding digital referendums initiated this way?
That would be a big step. Might need constitutional changes. But it's conceivable down the road if the trust and participation are there.
And beyond Estonia, could they export this?
Estonia loves exporting its e-governance solutions. So yes, regionally, Latvia, Lithuania, maybe the Nordics would be watching very closely. And through things like their e-governance academy, a successful Next Democracy platform could definitely become part of their global offering.
Could it even influence countries that aren't fully democratic?
That's an interesting thought. Maybe in some semi-democratic places in Eastern Europe or the Caucasus, leaders might see a controlled version of this as a way to allow some citizen input, gather feedback, without, actually giving up ultimate control. A safety valve, perhaps?
But we need that caveat, right? Estonia is quite unique.
Absolutely critical caveat. Their high digital ID use, the public trust in e-systems, these are huge advantages. You can't just copy-paste this model. You'd need to really analyze why it succeeded or failed in Estonia before trying it elsewhere. Is the small population key, the existing digital culture?
So success isn't guaranteed elsewhere just because it works there.
Not at all. But Estonia could become this really powerful global showcase. Proof, perhaps, that this kind of continuous, proxy-enabled digital democracy is viable, potentially sparking a wider conversation about democratic renewal for the digital age.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive then, we've looked at how this Next Democracy idea, as an add-on, not a replacement, might play out in Estonia. There are clear opportunities building on their digital strengths.
Right, enhancing engagement, maybe making policy more responsive, but also real challenges the digital divide, however small, security, potential manipulation, navigating the politics of it all.
And Estonia really stands out as a place where this could potentially gain traction thanks to that unique digital foundation and generally tech-savvy population.
Exactly. It highlights just how context-specific these kinds of innovations are. What works in Tallinn might look very different in the other countries we'll be exploring in this series.
Which brings us to the end of our look at Estonia. Definitely food for thought, thinking about their experience, their successes with e-governance, but also the potential hurdles. What do you think is the single most crucial factor for making a system like this truly inclusive and successful, no matter which country tries it? Something to ponder until our next deep dive. Thanks for joining us.